There was a man.
He went to San Francisco by himself when he was young. He was imprisoned 3 times, had 4 wives in different periods, became a hero 5 times, and won court cases 6 times. He had 8 sons, more than 40 grandsons and granddaughters. The man settled down in North America and lived up to 100 years old before he passed away peacefully, surrounded by his extended family and offsprings. Please welcome the 8 young Chinese Americans who will tell this heroic tale.
Hello everyone, welcome to Tongmen Book Reading. I am Joy Wang and I'm 14 years old and I live in Boston, Massachusetts. Now we will share our story. Running and dragging Gemao to Luo Tea House. Brandon pointed at Tea House's window. Look, over there. Upon seeing each other, Zhuzi, standing behind the glass window, stood up, knocking her chair back, surprised, with her mouth wide open, while Gemao's eyes widened in shock. Gemao! Zhuzi! Their voices clashed as they exclaimed each other's names. Brandon, confused, asked, "You two know each other?" These 2 lovers never thought that they would see each other at this place and at this time. Gemao pushed past the security obstructing the door, leaped over the red line separating them, excitedly took her hand and tried to leave. However, her small feet couldn't keep up with his, so Gemao picked her up and rushed down the stairs. However, before Gemao could leave, his path was blocked by the security guards. Sitting in the hallway, Akwe was sipping his tea, heart beating with the prospect of finally meeting his rival of love. Excited to make an end with this young man who had been tormenting him that he has never met before. "Put her down! Down! I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? This girl owes me $1,000 for bail and lawsuit." Akwe has tasted more salt than Gemao has for rice, and he is confident that he can take care of this foolish boy. Zhuzi tried letting go of Gemao's hand, but Gemao didn't release. Zhuzi looked at Gemao in the eye and said, "Let me go. Do you have $1,000 on you to pay him back?" Gemao released Zhuzi's hand, puzzled, and loudly asked, "What the hell is going on?" "Ha! Even Shui Yue has more sense than you. Unlike you, entering my place and breaking my rules. What should we do to those who cross the line?" The moment Akwe finished his words, several guards hollered, "Get him!" and surrounded Gemao. Although Gemao had learned martial arts for 2 years, it was no chance against the dozens of guards. He fought as hard as he could, but trying to protect him and Zhuzi proved difficult. He was beaten black and blue, while Brandon yelled helplessly, "Stop! Stop!" Brandon had also tried to protect Zhuzi, but was kicked in his bottom before he could even do anything. Akwe took advantage of the situation and pushed Zhuzi behind him. Gemao's eyes took on a red hue as he fought to reach Zhuzi, but before he could do so, the guards pinned him down on the floor and restrained his arms. A guard behind Gemao whacked a wooden baton straight down onto his head. With blood rushing down his face, Gemao passed out. "Gemao! Gemao!" Zhuzi screamed desperately, her face pale. A guard was getting ready to deliver another blow to Gemao's helpless head, but Zhuzi knelt down at Akwe's feet, begging him, "Please, please let him go." Coldly, Akwe looked down at Zhuzi. "Either you pay up the $1,000, we kill him, or you never see him again. You choose." Trembling, Zhuzi said, "I'll never see him again. I promise you." "I'm saying never ever. Can you promise that?" Zhuzi fell silent. Akwe directed his cold gaze upon the guards. "Keep going." Before they could lay a hand upon Gemao, Zhuzi bit her teeth. "I promise you, I will never see him again." "Drag him out, this fool who doesn't know the rules." Akwe released Gemao. When Gemao finally woke up with a splitting headache, he found himself in bed at Brandon's house. It was Maria who had helped him clean up. Maria planned to go to the police station to report the case, but was stopped by Gemao. Gemao said, This is our own business among the Chinese, and we will resolve it ourselves. You live in the United States. You have to follow the laws here, Maria said. I do not belong here, Gamal said. I just want to find my father and bring Juice home with me. I am not here to cause any trouble. Gamal thanked Maria and her family for saving him and promised to pay them back. He determined this vengeance must be avenged and he would return to the Lu Luo tea house. But how can you get Juice back? You have no money and you can't fight them. You don't have anything. Genshin came to the engineer's house after hearing the news. He persuaded Gamal to return to the construction site to make money. He says, "We came to Golden Hills to find our father, not to die for a woman. Now, everyone knows that your woman, Shui Yue, is someone who works at a brothel. Everyone knows what kind of place Lu Luo Tea House is, an underground casino and brothel of our people. What are they going to think of you?" Genshin brought information about their father that he had gotten from a translator. Their father traveled to the East Coast with the owner of a gold mine and then took a boat home from there. Genshin paid the translator to keep digging for more information, hoping to discover who the gold mine owner was and where his home was. With this new lead, two brothers could take their investigation in a new direction. Along with this, Gamal had one more goal: to earn enough money for Juice's redemption. Brandon said disappointedly, "Juice disappeared from the tea house since Gamal was beaten that day. Someone said that she's been hidden by Akwe." Gamal believed that Juice must not have gone far. He asked Brandon to help him find Juice. After that day, Juice never appeared at the window anymore. Brandon wandered around Chinatown every day, drawing many portraits of Juice and pasting them on the walls, but nobody contacted him. The construction of the railroad has advanced to Donner Peak in Sierra Nevada, 2,000 meters above sea level. 20 years ago, 87 people, including George Downer, Jacob Downer, and James Reed, as well as the Murphy family from Tennessee and the German immigrant Kosselberg family, started from Springfield, Illinois, USA, and planned to migrate to California in half a year. They needed to cover 3,000 kilometers, and the original plan was to cross the Sierra Nevada before the heavy snow sealing the mountain passes. However, an early snowstorm trapped the migrants at an altitude of 2,000 meters. Nearly half died of freezing or starvation, and some survived only by cannibalism. When rescue teams found them the following year, only 48 remained in California. They later called this unknown snowy mountain Donner Peak. Gamal has always lived in the tropics and has no experience living in the snowy mountains at all. He picked up some branches, set up a fire, and huddled with the Chinese workers to warm their hands and feet, for fear that if they stopped, everyone would freeze. Gamal returned to the construction site this time, serving as both a sentinel and a translator, and a liaison between the construction company and the Chinese workers. Gamal ran to the head and reported, "There's no way for us to get down the mountain. We have nowhere to go. The train can't come up the mountain and our food is running low. It is better to starve to death." Wearing a black eye patch, the thin and tall Adolf hit the hard frozen earth with his cane. Because of the snowstorm, construction of the railroad had been halted. He beat and scolded the ground and wanted to make the Chinese workers work harder, but the ground was frozen. What was to be done? With a gloomy face, Adolf called to Genshin, "Hey, Big Sam, get your Sams to work." Since Genshin lost one of his arms and Adolf was blinded in one eye, the two became enemies and were angry at each other, but they had to stay with the railway construction. Genshin muttered and didn't move. Adolf hit Genshin in the arm and said, "You were lazy yesterday. Do you want me to deduct your wages?" Genshin covered his sore arm and replied, "I am not slacking off." Adolf said, "I saw it. You were in the tent and sleeping." Gamal rushed over. "Did you not see how all the tents are ice caves now? How can we really sleep?" Genshin groaned. "Hey, he's blind." Adolf did not understand Chinese, but understood when they called him one-eyed dragon and blind man behind his back. He raised his claim, trying to hit Gunshen again, but Gamal reached out and blocked it. You little troublemaker, you! Gamal pointed to Adolf and declared, Old man, if you dare, let us fight. Adolf arrogantly drew his pistol and asked, What do you want to do? Do you want to have a duel with a Germanic? Gamal said, Yes. Adolf replied, But why should I have a duel with you? Because you insulted my brother. Adolf scoffed. He's being lazy. Gamal said, No, he is not. You must apologize to him. Adolf coldly laughed. What did you just say? It seems like Gamal is giving up everything. Since we're not able to walk out the snowy mountain, besides wolves, there's nothing else. We can't work, food is running out, and we're going to die anyway. Might as well get justice for my brother before we all die. You, apologize to him. Shit, no way. Adolf was so irritated that his veins were about to pop out. The fight gained the attention of white workers nearby who all came close to watch. Alan shouted, Stop fighting. Alan also asked Gamal with excitement, What weapon are you going to use? Gamal took off the head of a shovel and gripped the stick in his hands. This, he said. Adolf laughed. Are you using your toes to think? Which one's faster, my bullets or your stick? Gamal sneered. Nonsense. Will you fight or not? Adolf loaded a bullet and said, The Germanic nation is never afraid. Gunshen nervously dragged his brother away, saying, Just forget about it. Just admit it. Don't make any mistakes you'll regret. Alan pushed the workers to another side and then jumped to the middle of Adolf and Gamal and asked, Do you really want to duel? Gamal and Adolf responded simultaneously like two wolves. Yes. Their wolf-like echoes were heard all over the valley. Alan announced then, All right then, both of you back 10 steps. Gamal turned back to go forward 10 steps and then turned back again, while Adolf arrogantly walked backwards 10 steps, facing Alan, yelling and sneering. Suddenly, everyone shouted, No! Seeing Adolf stepping off of the edge of the snow-covered cliff. At the same time, his gun went off. Before the shouting was over, even more terrifying things happened. A large amount of snow slid down the slope quickly, turning into snow blocks, which caused even more snow to slide. And snow poured down to the railway construction site instantly. The Chinese workers were all buried under the snow before they could tell what was happening. Engineer Oliver and a backup horse team carrying food and heavy winter jackets departed Golden Hill on behalf of the company 3 days ago. The board was also afraid that workers would starve to death. The avalanche had occurred just when the backup team was about to arrive at the construction site, so everyone immediately began the rescue. Gamal, holding a big tree, shouted, I'm here! Alan shouted from another tree, I'm still alive! Everyone cheerfully rescued them at first. Following the pointed directions, the backup team rescued most of the workers buried in snow, but some had already been frozen to death, either holding a shovel in their hands or a piece of frozen bread. Gamal looked around for his brother, but saw Adolf and Gunshen unexpectedly from the other side of the hill climbing up. Not caring of counting the number of dead, white workers climbed into the tents, and Chinese workers went back to the shacks that they had built. Each made a fire to keep warm and devour the food that had just been delivered, but with heavy hearts. Using the little cooking wine that they had left, Gamal rubbed his brother's frozen limbs. Adolf wiped off the snow from his eyes and said to Gamal furiously, I let you off lightly this time. Gamal sneered. It was God's will. What are the benefits of fighting? Your railway construction can't move forward, and I can't get my wages. The engineer said, What are you bastards doing? Everyone would be dead if we had not arrived in time. Then he yelled to Adolf, Who would be responsible if everyone had died? And what would happen to your wife and children? Adolf replied disdainfully, The Germanic people are never afraid of death. The engineer then scolded Gamal. At your young age, what do you know about death? Gamal shrugged. If you don't understand life, how can you understand death? I asked my teacher this question when I was a kid, and he hit my head. And I was so scared that I never dared to ask again. The engineer did not understand what Gamo was saying. He handed a bag of soft bread with butter on it, and he said that Maria had asked him to give it to Gamo. He also said that she wanted him to come down to be with Brandon as early as possible. The engineer looked at the snowy sky and sighed. Stanford says the company is losing money every day, but I have no idea what to do either. I used to build railways on flat ground. Gamo giggled. I've got a good idea from Adolf sliding down the hill. You what? Tell me quickly. After a few days, Gamo had made an ice trolley to transport paving wood. He also suggested making a larger snow shelter to protect the already built railroads so that it wouldn't be damaged in the future. No one would have ever thought that Gamo's ice trolley would save so much effort and working hours. In the meantime, the snow shelter also effectively protected the rails from damage. The whole construction process was made much faster. Since then, both the engineer and the construction head looked at Gamo differently. Gamo is not just an ordinary Chinese translator. The engineer promoted him to an assistant. Since 1814, a British mine driver invented the train, the 1825 build of the world's first railway in England. It had only been about 40 years to 1864, when the Gamo brothers pioneered in building the Pacific Railroad. Before this, nobody had ever attempted of building a railway line that crossed the mountains with an altitude of more than 2,000 meters. This was truly groundbreaking, and no one knew what to expect. It was truly inspiring for Gamo, who never lived in the northern Snowy Mountains, to come up with the idea of using ice trolleys and snow shelters. The innovation pioneered the railway project for future success. This was not just an ordinary feat. Therefore, Gamo won the admiration of the workers and was also envied by Allen. The Chinese workers rested in the shacks they built and worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day with a half-hour break at noon. Almost 12 hours working consistently, they became working machines. The paycheck day was at the end of the month, and Gamo, on behalf of Sam's team, got the wages from the head. After deducting some living costs, such as food and laundry, Gamo distributed the money. The workers stood in a circle to collect the money. Those who did dangerous work got more, and those that did less collected less. This way, it was fair, and everyone understood the system. Besides working, there was no entertainment at the construction site. Some Chinese workers couldn't sleep at night. All they thought about was how to get money from others' pockets. 3 or 4 people would gather together to throw dice and gamble, and some even smoked smuggled opium. Otherwise, they had no energy to work the next day. Gamo never played. He only ever thought about Juzi, but there was still nothing from her yet. However, Genshin played gambling and sometimes even quarreled with his co-workers. Gamo didn't like his brother's behavior, so both were very unhappy about it. White workers stayed in tents built by the company. They rested and went to church worship every Sunday. They were very disgusted with the Chinese workers' habits of gambling and smoking opium, and in the meantime, they were preparing for a big strike. Railroad construction entered the arid desert terrain of Utah. In order to speed up the progress, Adolf got an idea of having competition between the whites and the Chinese. Gamo and Allen became enemies again. The Chinese won, and the whites became extremely frustrated. The construction head made a bigger bet on the two sides to hold a second round of competition. Allen saw through Adolf's tricks and called on his workers to stop working overtime and go on strike. Allen found Gamo, told him that capitalists squeezed the sweat out of their workers, and asked Gamo to persuade the Chinese workers to go on strike with the whites. Gamo thought it made sense, so he agreed. He naively thought that he would ride back to find Juzi, even at a glance, if the strike succeeded and he could take a few more days off. On the 3rd day of the strike, Adolf and his engineer were anxious. They didn't expect the Chinese workers would also go on strike, because they were always obedient, hardworking, and capable. After a board meeting, the company cut off the train that transported food to the Chinese. Let's see what you're going to do next, they thought. No food for a day. They were so hungry. No food for a second day. They became emotionally unstable. Genshin made a big fuss. He scolded his brother for harming the Chinese by doing so. Zhou Banxian calculated a divination for this matter. Don't go on strike again, for the divination is small luck. Adolf threatened the Chinese, saying that they wouldn't get the monthly wage if they continued the strike. In order to get the wages and return to their hometown as early as possible, the Chinese workers resumed work. However, to keep the workers happy, the railway company also compromised, reducing the daily working hours of Chinese workers from 12 to 10 hours. Zhou Banxian is really accurate with a small luck. Allen then accused Gamal of being a traitor. Gamal said, "I've never been with you. We're all workers from the construction site to earn this muddy money. I promised to go on strike with you for the interests of the Chinese workers. I promised that Chinese workers would resume work for their actual gains and losses. Didn't you, Allen, do this?" In order to find Zhuzi, Brandon soaked himself in the Lu Luo tea house every day. He also learned to gamble and found that he had a gift for gambling. During this period, he also began to shoot and vowed to protect Zhuzi. Brandon finally found the room where Zhuzi was hidden. Maria, the wife of the engineer, was a faithful Christian. She decided to act. She took a missionary and 2 female parishes to the backyard of the Lu Luo tea house to build a ladder, pry open the back window, and rescue Zhuzi from Akui's room and hid her in the church. This church was full of white women. Because it was next to Chinatown, the female parishioners found that some young girls from the East were imprisoned in the Lu Luo tea house for selling their bodies. The members of the church believed that these girls were forced and deserved help. Therefore, they discussed a rescue plan with the goal of protecting, educating, and changing vulnerable girls and women. Maria helped Zhuzi and also helped her son, Brandon. Since Zhuzi came to the church, Brandon also began to read the Bible. He had also taken initiative to play the piano and sing hymns to accompany the girls. Akoi broke into the church with his guards numerous times, and Maria hid Zhuzi in the basement. Akoi searched again and again, but he couldn't find any trace of Zhuzi. He was about to collapse.
Dad left home, sadly going to build the railways. Mom missed him day and night, but her care could not get through to the tunnels every only to meet him in her dreams.